What's up, guys? Jason WWF Revolution down here in the cave for a very special episode of Wrestling with the Past. That's right, we're going to do a deep dive. Yes, indeed, a deep dive into one particular show. We did a deep dive into Butcher Vachon's wedding. Now we're going to jump to December 28th, 1984, and we're going to talk about the Madison Square Garden house show that I believe is the true precursor, the true lead-in, the true step one to WrestleMania 1, which happens only in March of 1985. So here we go. We've got Mean Gene and Gorilla Monsoon on commentary. Now, I really like that combination, and it's not a common combination. Gorilla does a lot of solo stuff. He does a lot of stuff with Bobby Heenan. He does a lot of stuff with Jesse Ventura, and that's great. And we've grown to know and love it. But this, on the rare occasion, Mean Gene fills in on commentary, and it's so good. It's so good. Those two work very well together, underratedly well together. And by underrated, I mean we never talk about it. We never talk about Gorilla and Gene, but it's good. And I'll get to why in a little bit. First match. Now this is from unfortunately, this is from the WWE Network. When it was the WWE Network. I didn't look ahead to see how much of this is edited or how many matches were missed. It's just the one that I have in my collection. So it's fine. The only problem with it, of course, is the music. There's no actual theme songs. It's all generic music that's piped in over everything. It's generic crowd noise. It's generic music. They cut out the commentary. They cut out the ring announcing. So for Junkyard Dog, there's no Another One Bites the Dust. They do play Grab Them Cakes because they own it, but they don't play Queen. Obviously for Hogan, he's got a different song. And Cyndi Lauper, I'll get to it. But the first match is Brutus Beefcake versus S.D. Jones. Now, I'm usually not a big fan of Brutus Beefcake matches, especially from this era. And there's the usual amount of stalling, really over-stalling. Basically, the over-stalling is Brutus Beefcake playing to the crowd and Johnny V disrobing him, taking the vest off, maybe taking the arm covers off, certainly taking the bow tie off. And every time he does that, the crowd reacts, and then he stops undressing him and, sells and stalls a little bit, and the crowd just goes nuts. The crowd just eats it up. And I can't understand why, other than just it's wrestling, and that's just what a crowd is supposed to do. But once the match gets going, my goodness, what a great matchup. This was a fun Brutus Beefcake match because S.D. Jones puts in a solid amount of effort, and Brutus Beefcake really flips and flops all around the ring for SD. Does a lot of selling, and SD gets a lot of offense. And in this match, Beefcake looks good. He's got red and black trunks on, tights, red and black tights, and he's given off kind of an early Rick Rude vibe. So I liked it. I thought this was a good match. It was probably the best Beefcake match I've seen thus far. Great back and forth. Ends with a flying knee out of nowhere. When Beefcake really hits that flying knee, if he really hits it, it looks good. It looks devastating. It's usually off of like a missed clothesline, and then Beefcake hits the ropes and really comes off and hits the flying knee. Right at the beginning of this match, we have the literally hanging off the rafters comment from Gorilla Monsoon. Match is yet to begin. And Gorilla busts out one of his most famous lines, "Gene, they are literally hanging off the rafters here." And, if you literally think about that, it's literally ridiculous of Gorilla to say that they are literally hanging off the rafters in Madison Square Garden. Good match, nonetheless. That's followed with a little bit of a snooze fest that has more comic relief going on, so it was entertaining enough for me. We've got Salvatore Bellomo versus Johnny Rodz. Now, for the second or third time in Bellomo's career at MSG, his parents are announced. So Howard Finkel says we have a very special, two special guests tonight, Mr. and Mrs. Bellomo in the crowd, and they go to them, and they are two of the most, and how do I say this without being canceled? They're two of the most Italian-looking people in the world. They are like 1800s throwback Italian people. The father has this like 7-piece suit on with the mustache, and the mom is just looks like she could her whole being could be on the side of a marinara sauce jar. Like she's got the short black curly hair, and I think she's wearing like a house coat or something. I don't know. But they just look like one of those old photos where the couple doesn't smile. They just sit there real seriously. And, you think like maybe their names are, Ernesto and I don't know. I can't think of any female Italian names. I'm sorry, I don't write this stuff. It just flows. But anyway, very, very, very interesting looking parents. And of course they give a nice wave. They give kisses to the crowd and to, of course, baby Sal in the ring. It's great. What else? We've got Rodz is, of course, the aggressor and has the upper hand most of the match. Sal is whipped into the turnbuckle, hops up on the second rope, slightly botches a flying body press, and gets the surprise pin out of nowhere. So what I'm saying is, Rodz whips him into the turnbuckle. Instead of turning around and hitting his back on the turnbuckle, Salvatore Bellomo runs into the turnbuckle front first, hops up on the second rope, does kind of a blind dive backwards onto Rodz. Rodz is out of position, so Bellomo kind of hits him in the legs. Rodz goes down nonetheless. Bellomo with the win, maybe even the surprise win, and celebrates as if he's just won the World Wrestling Federation Championship. Right? And Bellomo would do that at the end of all of his matches that he won. He would jump up, he would freak out, he would run around the ring, he would kick the ropes when he won. I mean, he's nuts. He's nutso. And that's a nice little throwback to old wrestling, because imagine today when a wrestler wrestles in their hometown in front of their parents. That wrestler is beaten to death in the ring, bloodied, beaten, set on fire, fired, terminated from the company right in front of his parents in today's wrestling. But back then, they let Bellomo get the win, so his Italian parents can wave and smile and blow kisses. Salvatore Bellomo with the Duke. We have a very interesting matchup. We have Antonio Inoki. And I knew that there was going to be some kind of Asian representation on this card. We're full of cultural references today. Asian representation because of the Japanese photographers all at ringside. So at MSG, when there was Japanese photographers at ringside, you knew that there was going to be somebody from Japan wrestling on the card. And so we have Antonio Inoki taking on Dr. D. David Schultz for something called the Martial Arts Championship. And Antonio Inoki is the martial arts champion. And he's taking on Dr. D. David Schultz. And so this is the John Stossel night. Okay, and we'll get to that. There'll be a lot more on that during this deep dive. This is the John Stossel night where Dr. D smacks his head off. So we'll get to that in a minute. But big clash of styles here, obviously. In the beginning of the match, there's some pushing and shoving, and it legitimately, like with all of Dr. D's matches, it legitimately looks like they're going to get into a fight. And but Antonio Inoki would kill him, and I kind of wanted them to get into a little shoot deal with Inoki just beating the tar out of him, because I don't love Dr. D. David Schultz. I don't really like him. But I will defend what he did against Stossel in a minute, so just bear with me. the match looks stiff at times. There's some breakdowns, where the guys kind of, get off track a little bit and kind of do a little dance trying to get back into the routine. And I think they might have been getting frustrated with each other at some point. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm just a mark. But again, some breakdowns. And then Gorilla Monsoon would call it jockeying for position. And jockeying for position always meant that a guy was, two guys were struggling to get their groove going in the ring, and so they're jockeying for position. Out of nowhere, Antonio Inoki wins this with, I guess Bad News Brown called it the Ghetto Blaster. It's like the back head kick, and I best remember it from Pro Wrestling, the Nintendo game. It was Fighter Hayabusa's finishing move. The, kind of like the soccer kick to the back of the head. And, knocks out Dr. D. Dr. D goes down clean for the 3 count. Antonio Inoki is your big winner. All right, then we've got Junkyard Dog with dubbed music, Grab Them Cakes. Takes on some guy named Paul Kelly. I don't know what's going on here. Paul Kelly, I think, did some... So I didn't look him up. I don't know if he's a Canadian guy. I think he did a match on Saturday Night's Main Event as well. I think. They didn't totally job Paul Kelly out. He's got some good-looking punches. And... but, it's kind of a squash match. Not entirely. But it's about 5 minutes. It's not a long, back and forth Johnny Rods versus Belomo match. Interesting finish here. Paul Kelly takes the power slam, the thump, right? And in classic 80s form, I don't know why this was a thing in the 80s, but wrestlers would be kicking out, but not really. So their legs would flail as if they were kicking out, but the count would still go on and the kick out wouldn't actually happen. And a lot of times they did it right at the 3 count. So it was almost like, all right, you're pinning me, but I just lost, but I kicked out at the end. It didn't count. I saw that a lot. You see that a lot. And sometimes they're like that awesome bad guy spasm that like Iron Sheik was famous for. Like after he gets knocked down, he just spasms a few times. But Paul Kelly was doing the kick out spasm, fake, because it's the thump, it's the power slam. The match is over. You're not kicking out of Junkyard Dog's finishing move at MSG at all, right? But Paul Kelly he's not attempting to kick out unless he just didn't know what was going on. But he's doing these leg kick out spasm things, and usually the referee just counts through those and the match is over. But not this time. The referee stops at 2, and then because I think the referee is just confused by Paul Kelly's charismatic kick-out attempt. And so he stops at 2. Junkyard Dog stares at the referee, looks down at Paul Kelly, looks back at the referee, and the referee counts to 3 this time, and Paul Kelly is still doing the spasm kick-outs. But the referee counts right through it. So I was looking really closely. I didn't see Junkyard Dog throw him any dirty looks or anything like that. He didn't kick him in the gut as he got up. But I don't know what the heck Paul Kelly was doing. That it fooled the referee. JYD with the Duke. Then we've got Cobra versus Black Tiger for the Never Seen WWF Junior Championship. Now this was kind of a repeat match from either December '83 or January '84 when Tiger Mask. I think it was Tiger Mask and Black Tiger or something like that. They fought for the junior title on an MSG card, and this was your same basic so it's basically a WCW cruiserweight match, and they're doing things that we haven't seen before, and the crowd is going nuts for it, except not really because they don't know who either guy is, but they're just pumped to see this action, this fast-paced action that the WWF certainly did not have at the time. What do we got? We've got, technically it's a great wrestling match. It's way ahead of its time, as I said. Nice 20-minute WCW Cruiserweight style match. Cobra wins with a dive off the top. And that dive off the top was set up by what's now called a tope suicida. That's right, tope. So basically, I don't know, Black Tiger was on the outside of the ring. Cobra went flying through the third and second rope to do the tope. And again, crowd goes insane. I go insane for it because, this was at a time when they weren't doing that, 5 times every match on AEW Dynamite. With guys that are 300 pounds doing these tope suicidas, which is just stupid name. A suicide dive or whatever that means. But it was revolutionary back then. It's as boring as a side headlock now. But you get to see that. Then he goes up to the top, does the simple dive, and gets the 3 count. And then Black Tiger attacks him after the bell, and they brawl outside. But nonetheless, Cobra gets the win. And the crowd popped big for Cobra winning. I think they would have popped big for Black Tiger winning. I don't think they knew the difference. Next up, we've got Tonga Kid and Jimmy Snuka taking on Piper and Orton. And this has such a big match feel. Such a big match feel. It's so brilliantly set up on commentary by Gene and Gorilla. And, Orton and Piper are coming down to the ring with security just guarding them for their lives. Tonga and Snuka come out to an eruption of crowd, and it's so good. It's such a picture of childhood. Watching those 4 guys in the ring and watching that feud happen just seemed like forever in childhood. Great, passionate, fired up match. Gene on commentary is just great, like I was mentioning earlier. Mean Gene Okerlund, his speech pattern, his verbiage, his vocabulary, his tone, he's such a good commentator. And you pick up on little subtleties from Mean Gene, like when he says the word again instead of again. Mean Gene wants to sound articulate and intelligent, so he says again. I love it. He just adds some special little nuances to commentary that you don't get from Vince or from Vince has his special nuances too. Nevertheless, and and then from there and things like that. But Mean Gene and his again, I think it's great. All right, so there's one spot that Snuka and Tonga Kid do a lot of, and I don't like it. And Jimmy Snuka started doing it when the Piper's Pit beatdown happened with the coconut, and Snuka slowly started getting up and then realized what was going on and freaked out. And he does this thing where he leans back and goes, yeah, he gets so mad, like he's freaking out, right? Well, now him and Tonga Kid do that. So they're out, the match is going on, it's back and forth, it's a great fun match. Tonga and Snuka are on the outside of the ring, Piper and Orton are in the inside of the ring. Tonga and Snuka look at each other, and then they both do this, you can't see my arms, but this freak out, we're angry, and then they both do it, and they both run in the ring, crowd's going nuts. It just reminds me of something that you would do, like, with your friends on the playground, or like, it's superhero stuff, right? You've been beating me up, and now, I'm angry, and that's what they would do. So Piper and Tonga did it in stereo, they did it in unison, and it's just goofy. But it's 80s goofy, and it's playground goofy, and it's great. So they get in the ring, to try to clean house. And Jimmy Snuka is always, when he's mad, he's always tossing the referee around. So, the referee gets tossed around a few times because now it's a Pier 6 brawl. It's a brouhaha. It's a Katie bar the door. And they're all going at it, and of course results in a double disqualification. Good stuff. Then we've got Mike Rotundo versus Rene Goulet. Okay, whatever. Forget the match. Outside the ring, during the Mike Rotundo versus Rene Goulet match, you see John Stossel with his arm resting on the mat. He's got his own cameraman. He's got a mic, and he's doing his 2020 bit. He's doing his expose on pro wrestling right there while the match is going on. Nobody acknowledges him. Gorilla doesn't acknowledge him. Gene doesn't acknowledge him. I don't know how this was allowed. I don't know how Vince allowed this. I have no idea, because really it was a rag piece on the fakeness of pro wrestling, right? And so while the match is going on, John Stossel is is cutting his show at ringside, so you can see it in the background, right? And it was bothering me because I remember the piece. I remember how wormy and slimy John Stossel was, and just how with his mustache and his 80s curly hair and his, investigative reporter nonsense. I hate John Stossel, right? So you can see him, mocking wrestling. He's kind of like pointing to the ring and, what is this? You can see him. And at one point, I think the only time he was even, remotely acknowledged was Rene Goulet hit the ropes pretty hard right where John Stossel was standing. And, it freaked him out a little bit. I don't even think he was filming at the time, but it kind of like freaked him out. But it was just so dirty, of Stossel. And that's why we'll get to my next thoughts. Hello, Finn. The backstage incident. So, obviously that happened prior to this Rene Goulet Mike Rotundo match, where John Stossel goes and picks on the worst person he could possibly pick on, Dr. D. David Schultz, and really, really eggs him on. And starts questioning the validity of wrestling. And so we know what happened. Dr. D just wallops him twice. I think he ended up with like a busted eardrum or something like that. He got paid big time. Dr. D got fired. There's some back and forth on whether or not Vince put him up to it or didn't put him up to it. It depends on who you ask. But we all saw it. And again, like I said on the previous video, I'm not in favor of assaulting anybody, but you went into a bear cave and you woke up a bear on purpose and then made fun of him and then stole his food, and you were doing it all on live television or nationwide television, and you're a slimy little news reporter and you're in trouble. And that's what happened. So I don't like John Stossel. I don't like what he was trying to do with wrestling. Whatever. So now we move into the very special presentation. And I'm going to really dive deep on this one. So I'll be looking down at the notes a lot here. So here we go. We've got Howard Finkel announcing Jack Tunney. And this is kind of the first time I remember seeing Jack Tunney being identified as the WWF president and playing some kind of a role. So he gets on the microphone. And first he's talking into the wrong, I think there's two mics, well, I know, there's two mics attached to the microphone thing. And Tunney's talking into the wrong one, so there's no noise. So Finkel comes over and gives him the right, okay. So now he's talking. Now we got a ton of feedback. Ton of loud concert feedback. And Tunney just looks lost right away. Okay, so he starts saying, all right, we're honoring a lady who has done more for promoting women's wrestling than anybody in history. Anybody in history. And he kind of sucks. Like I think Howard Finkel could have done a much better job introducing this bit. Jack Tunney really he didn't do well. I don't think he was used to anything, in front of the camera. Jack Tunney welcomes Hulk Hogan and Wendy Richter to the ring. All right, so they come, and that's great. Hogan has a big trophy in his hands. He's got a big old trophy, and then Jack Tunney announces Dick Clark. Right, Dick Clark from the when he was talking about this person is a big wrestling fan and they're so world renowned and known and loved in the music industry. I thought it was going to be Cal Rudman. I forgot it was Dick Clark. I thought it was going to be Cal Rudman, and that would have been awful. But it was Dick Clark, and that was way more Hollywood appeal than Cal Rudman, obviously. This is like Dick Clark, right? So then Dick Clark takes the mic from Jack Tunney and announces Cyndi Lauper. And the crowd becomes absolutely unglued. And unfortunately, I can just see the crowd unglued because I'm sure that Cyndi Lauper was played in by Girls Just Want to Have Fun. But they can't play that. So they played some horribly generic, goofy, no lyrics, just poppy music. And it goes over the crowd. So you can't hear the crowd either. You just hear this garbage poppy music. And I think it kills that entrance. All right, so Cyndi Lauper is coming down. David Wolf accompanies her. And as she's getting into the ring, I'm legitimately laying on my couch going, is she hot or is she not? I don't know. I don't know if Cyndi Lauper's hot or not. I'm not sure. I can't tell. So anyway, she, again, Dick Clark takes the microphone again, talks about, bringing rock and wrestling together, and then gives her this beautiful trophy. And she's, on the mic, and she's got her Cyndi Lauper voice, and then she decides that she thanks the fans, and of course she, thanks she calls it the Wrestling Federation. Okay, so she wants to thank the Wrestling Federation, not the World Wrestling Federation, but, whatever. It's Cyndi Lauper. She wants to thank the Wrestling Federation for everything that they've done for her, and she wants to present the WWF with a gold record. Okay, and so this gold record is brought to the ring, and she wants to give it to the WWF in thanks, so she gives it to Hogan and Richter, and they hold it up, and they walk around the ring. Now, at some point, Hulk Hogan leaves. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but he leaves the ring. He just disappears, and you don't even notice. It's like magic. He's just not there. He's gone. Wendy Richter's still there, or maybe she leaves too. I'm not sure. No, she's still there. She's still there. Okay, so Hogan leaves. And now Cyndi Lauper wants to do one more award. And I think she's got a second gold album, I believe. And she wants to present this to a guy who's really turned his life around and has begun working with MS and blah, blah, blah. And here we have it. We have the official Captain Lou Albano face turn. Cyndi Lauper announces Captain Lou. She announces Lou. Lou comes down to the ring wearing the Lou Albano tuxedo that we all love. Gets in the ring, bah, 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 bah. He's hugging Cyndi, and we have the face turn. We have the face turn for Lou Albano because he's shaking hands with David Wolf and Wendy Richter, and that's it. The face turn is on. And now we see at the bottom of the screen, we see Roddy Piper and Cowboy Bob Orton circling the ring, and they get into the ring. And Piper takes the award from Cyndi Lauper, and is talking something on the mic, and he wants to present the award to Lou Albano because he deserves it, and he smashes the award over Lou Albano's head, and it's glass or whatever, so the glass breaks. Lou Albano goes down with a thud, and all hell breaks loose, and this is so awesome. It is so good. It's almost surreal. It's almost real. It's almost scary. But Cyndi Lauper, Lou Albano is stomping on, or Roddy Piper stomping on Lou Albano. Cyndi Lauper comes over, dives onto Roddy Piper's foot. He lifts her up with his boot. Right? She's locked onto his leg. He basically lifts her up with his leg and throws her. He flings her off his leg with his leg. Right? Well, that infuriates Dave Wolf, who's her manager / boyfriend. He comes lunging at Roddy Piper. It's awkward, it's botchy, but eventually Piper struggles because, David Wolf is all wiry. He struggles, but he gets David Wolf up in a power slam, and he literally runs a third of the way across the ring and gives David Wolf the most intense power slam, the hardest power slam. You can just see the air going out of Wolf's lungs. Now there's a cop in the ring, and now the crowd is going absolutely bananas. And then we see finally Hulk Hogan running to the ring to make the save, and as he's getting into the ring, he absolutely wallops a police officer, getting him out of his way, like a legit New York City cop, just bashes him out of the way. The cop goes flying. Hogan gets in the ring. Nothing goes down. Piper scoots out. Piper and Ace leave to the most lethal-looking crowd I've seen since Philly, wanting to kill Roddy Piper. There's a fan in the crowd that's legitimately taking shots at Piper. That security guy is just batting his arm away. In comes a drink and smashes Piper. Piper's covering up. He's getting the heck out of there. And it is unbelievable. Gorilla is selling the heck out of it. The cops are in the ring. It's maddening. It's a madhouse. But it is so, so important. It is the most important thing in 1984 to build to WrestleMania is this incident. We've got Mr. T coming soon as a result of all that. I mean, this is just it. We're here. Everything from this point on is going to be leaning towards WrestleMania. Very, very, very important stuff. Cyndi Lauper is crying. Wendy Richter is consoling her. Hulk Hogan is helping Lou Albano up to his feet. He's cut. He's bleeding. If this happened in Philly, it would have been a legitimate mob scene. Apparently, New York City was a little bit more confined, calm. I don't know. The police presence is felt. It's incredible. Wow. Okay, where do we go from here? I'll wrap this up quickly. Adonis and Murdoch take on the Briscoes. When Adonis and Murdoch were in the ring, I was almost 100% sure that Wyndham and Rotundo would be winning the titles tonight. I can't remember, right? Of course I can't remember. It happened a whole long time ago. I thought that tonight was the night that Wyndham and Rotundo took on Adonis and Murdoch, but no, indeed, it's the Briscoes. And I just cannot sit through Briscoes matches. It's such a clash of styles with the brawlers versus the mat guys. It's so long. It's so boring. I don't like Briscoe matches. It's just like a 25-minute just side headlock that breaks down into a brawl at the end. And I think that it's a double DQ. I think, but I just can't watch the Briscoes. I'm glad they're gone soon. They should be gone soon. Final two matches, we got Barry Windham versus Mr. Fuji, and this is the second time they've done this, and I don't know what they're doing. They bring out Barry Windham, and he takes on Mr. Fuji, and it's a 20-second match. It's just like Barry Windham doesn't even take his jacket off. In fact, I think this match might have been just re-aired, just like spliced in for some reason. It's the exact same match as it was a couple months ago when Windham, I think, debuted in MSG, and just has his jacket on, a quick few punches and then a bulldog, and Mr. Fuji's gone. So I think this was just a re-air. Like, I don't know why they would do that, but whatever. And then we've got Hogan versus Sheik is the main event. And look, a Hogan versus Iron Sheik match is absolutely classic. It's very LJN era. It's just, every Hogan and Sheik rematch was better than the title win in January '84. I think that was only like a 5-minute match, and it had a purpose, a very specific purpose. And Hogan was new, and Hulkamania was new. But their later matches, their rematches, were much better. They're a little bit longer. But it's your standard Hogan-Sheik match. Sheik attacks before the bell. Hogan recovers. Chokes Sheik with his, robe or headgear or whatever. And then kind of, Sheik gets control again, and Hulk powers up and hits the moves, and it's over. But the crowd was so into this night. I mean, they were buzzing, as they say, about this Piper, Cyndi Lauper, Captain Lou fiasco. Man, oh man. They pulled that off. I mean, when you watch all this come together and you just see the crowd reaction, you just realize that, first of all, it's dead, right? This is never going to happen again. Because we just know too much and we don't care as much, and we know that those guys are going out to dinner afterwards. And I think we knew it then too. Many of us. I was a kid. I didn't know it. My dad did. But still, watching it as an adult, I was uncomfortable. I was afraid for Piper and Orton as they were making their way back to the ring, back to the dressing room. I thought they were going to get attacked. But it was a masterpiece. Go out of your way to see it. December 28th, 1984. All right, that's it. That concludes 1984. We're done. We did it. We finished 1984. We're going to jump right into 1985. I've got new shows for 1985. I've got All American Wrestling to talk about with you, and the house shows and Championship Wrestling, and probably some more Maple Leaf Wrestling. And I think Prime Time starts very late 85. I have a few of those. So we can talk about a whole new batch of shows. 1985 will start soon. Thanks for hanging out with me. Good night now.